my guest will be sharing with us the reality of being in a polygamous marriage.
After 12 years and you are still childless, so it was very easy for me to think that I should have another wife.
It's only a man for many wives, but not woman for many husbands.
And there are also many dynamics. There are children involved, there are people involved. And let's also not just follow culture or even beliefs blindly.
Hello, I am Tamima and welcome to the Real Talk Roundtable. Now, marriage is a very beautiful thing, and in Kenya, by law, we have different types of marriages that are recognized. One of them is polygamous marriages. Now, for a lot of people, and women especially, this is a very controversial one. But the fact is, there are so many families who are living under this setup. Well, today on the show, my guest will be sharing with us the reality of being in a polygamous marriage, what it's like raising a family behind this. So we are here to decode polygamy. My first guest is Habil Were. He's an apostle and he has 2 wives. His first wife, he has been married to her for over 35 years, and the second wife married to her for almost 24 years. Habil, welcome to the round table.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Is polygamy something that you always set out for, or it just happened?
My grandfather was a polygamous husband. Then my father also. So it became just very easy for me to find myself in, because that is the life I've lived in a polygamous family.
So for now, close to 24, 25 years, you've been in a polygamous family setup.
Yes.
And let's talk about now probably your first wife, because you've been together with Jennifer for over 35 years. So
precisely, yes.
When you married your first wife, did you make it clear to her that right now Jennifer ni wewe nakupenda, lakini after a while, I'm very sure I'll need to take a second wife? Ama it's something that happened once now mmeishi na Jennifer, you're in the relationship, that's when now you met someone and now took that person as a second wife?
You see, I didn't tell her because I also did not know what will happen.
So it was not intentional by the point you were marrying your first wife?
Yes. But after 12 years and you are still childless and there was no any sign, so it was very easy for me to think that I should have another wife and have children.
So for you, what necessitated you taking a second wife was the fact that you did not have any children then with your wife.
Yes.
And to date, you still do not have children with Jennifer.
With Jennifer.
So for you, it was from a point of you wanted children, and unfortunately, your first wife could not have children.
Yes, and in fact, she pushed me into it.
So she encouraged it.
Yes, she felt she's being unfair to me to live with me all these years, and then I don't have any child. So she felt even people would not really, you see, praise her for her possessing me, that I'm her only husband, and then later on they blame her for not even allowing me to marry another wife.
So at the juncture where now Jennifer, your first wife, is pushing you, like, my husband, I want you to now go get a second wife ambaye anaweza kukupatia watoto. So did you then start looking?
Now, well, it remained in my mind that one day I will get a woman who will accept to be a co-wife, not a husband snatcher, but one that would share this husband.
So it works both ways. The first wife has to accept for you to go get the second wife, na yule wa pili lazima akubali kuwa co-wife.
Yes. You see, my wife kind of was telling me, why are you not marrying? Why do you love me? I'm not giving you children. Why, wherever you went, why didn't you marry? So it just sank in me slowly that if I happen to marry, if I love another woman, it would not be a problem to her.
And so now you met your second wife, whose name is Florence.
Florence.
And at the point where you met Florence and you explained to her that you're already married, how did she receive that?
Well, I was surprised that according to her, she was following me with an expectancy that one day I'll tell her I love you. So when I said it to her, she said...
already knowing that you're married?
Yes, she knew that I'm married, I have a family, I have a wife, and she knew Jennifer, and she was seeing Jennifer. You see, I'm a preacher man. So wherever I found her, it was in church. And so she knew Jennifer very well. And so she was just waiting. You know, like sometimes women, they will not tell you they love you, they want you to seduce them, but they will behave in a certain manner that you will find yourself just, you see, being attracted to say certain things.
So Jennifer sasa akakuwa kipenzi cha roho.
Florence.
And then Florence now as well now joined. So
Yes.
you had, and probably this one you can answer. Is it possible to love two people? Because a lot of people will say yes and no, that if you love the second one, you didn't love the first one. But in the context of a polygamous family setup, you actually do love both your wives equally.
I do love them. I would not say equally.
Oh, that's a controversial one.
But let me explain. Suppose I buy one a dress and I don't have enough money to buy for both of them. Would that mean that I don't love them equally?
Not necessarily.
Yes. And loving equally, I would not say that it is that possible, because sometimes you find you are drawn to one and another time you are drawn to the other.
So how have you been able to balance? Because you've been in a polygamous relationship for over 24 years.
Yes.
So how do you strike that balance?
Well, I create time for each. You see, there was a time I would put them together in the same bedroom, in the same bed, but I decided, no, it's not good, because they are different. They are not the same.
So were there
I advised them.
conflicts coming out when you did that?
No, at first they accepted it. It was no problem. My first wife will say I'm the first one. Her later, because she's the second one.
So seniority.
Ile ya kujisikia mimi ndio wa kwanza.
She's the senior one.
Wacha yeye angoje. Okay? But then I learned that privacy inasaidia watu kupendana bila shida, bila kuona ati fulani ataniona hivi ama fulani atasikia hivi. So in marriage kuna hiyo wakati ambapo mtu anataka akuambie kitu na mwingine asikii. You see? Because one would not feel free to ask certain questions or demand certain answers or certain attentions in front of everybody. You see, one would feel it is not, I may be provoking my co-wife to jealous. So the best thing is that you create for each one of them.
So it's almost like
privacy.
Compartmentalizing. Yani huyu kuna department ya Florence na kuna department ya
Yes. Una
Jennifer.
create room, una create time. Kama ni outing, kuna wakati huwezi enda na wao wote.
And when it comes to your living situation, so do
Yes.
you still all live under one roof, or now they're living in different houses?
Now, the economy has not allowed me for them to live in different houses.
So you're all living under one roof
All this time.
for over 24 years.
Yes, we are still all under one roof.
Right. Now, remember today we are trying to decode a polygamous family setup. And again, I'll remind our viewers, to each his own. Here we are not here to judge. We're just here to foster understanding and an appreciation, because at the end of the day, if you look at Apostle Habil, he's been able to have a very successful polygamous family setup. And for him, he's an advocate of it. But at the same time, remember, at the end of the day, and this will come to when the expert joins us, there's a lot of responsibility that goes towards having two wives. And if you're fortunate enough that both your wives have children, there are a lot of responsibilities, because you can imagine perhaps polygamous family setups, you even have some having as many as 20 children. So here, mwanamme na wanawake, there's a lot of responsibility, financial, emotional, and whatnot, which we'll get into. But right now, I want us to get the perspective of the women who are in this type of family setup. Take a look. So on the table, we've had from the men, but it's also very important to get women's perspective on the issue of polygamy. My two guests right now are the surviving widows of the late DeMatthew. I have with me Seraphine DeMatthew and Caroline DeMatthew. Welcome to Real Talk. So first of all, I want to commend you for, first of all, coming on this platform to share your story and, of course, your experience with polygamy. So probably I want to ask each of you, as truthfully as possible, did you ever think you'd be in a polygamous relationship?
In the first time, I couldn't have imagined that one day there will be somebody else who will come, who will follow me. But after around 7 years, I saw it by far. So I started preparing myself, but there was no fight between us.
And to clarify, Seraphine, you're the first wife?
Yes.
And Caroline, you're the second wife?
Yes.
So at the point that you were getting married, it never came up that at some point in your union, he would consider taking a second wife?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't, though. In Kikuyu, if you got married to a family whereby maybe the mother or the father, that family maybe there is 2 wives, 3 wives, there is a high possibility one day you'll get yourself in the same issue, because I cannot call it a problem.
Yeah.
It is not a problem.
So it was just a culture,
It is
a way
a
of
culture.
life.
Kikuyu
And
culture.
what about for you, Caroline? Did you ever think that you would be in a polygamous union?
Yes, because where I come from, my grandfather is married to 2 wives. So I was okay. Yeah.
So it's something that you are fully prepared for all your life?
Not fully, but I was okay.
And I like how you clarified not fully.
Yeah.
Because looking at you 2 women and actually even watching them as you're preparing to actually do the interview, they're very friendly. Like you come across as probably sisters or friends. You have a certain bond amongst the 2 of you. But I'm pretty sure that it wasn't always easy. And probably I'd like to hear from you, Seraphine, because you're the first wife. So there you are, you've been married to this man for 7 years. And then all of a sudden, how did he approach you? How did he inform you that now I want to take someone else to join us in this union?
First, I would say this: marriage is not a bed of roses. So sometimes there is up and downs. But in marriage, one must be a fool and the one brighter. So when you see your partner, maybe he has a problem somewhere, you're not supposed to fight first. Sometimes you are supposed to go somewhere and think about maybe there's something I'm not fulfilling, that maybe there is incitement from outside. But after staying on my own, because I didn't disclose, I myself first, I don't disclose my problems to anyone, even to my sister. Mostly, I solve my problems around by praying. Because mostly you can give some issues concerning your family, and thereafter you regret why you did it.
So for you, it was a time of now whereby you took time to understand. Okay, either your husband you're going through something in your marriage to understand why is he behaving in a certain manner.
Yes, but thereafter there was no problem. But according to their mother, he believes her sons, they are supposed to get married to 2 wives or more.
So it was something that was encouraged on his side of the family.
So for me, it wasn't all that bad. But the fear was maybe he'll bring somebody who will not respect me, or somebody will start fighting.
So you sound like you had made your peace with it. You had already accepted on some level that
because I love
there
my
will be a
husband.
second wife. Sijui ni nani na sijui ni lini, lakini atakuja.
I could see it from far.
And so let's hear from Caroline. So Caroline, probably tell me, when did you meet your late husband?
We met on my birthday, July 2013. Yes.
So how did you start that discussion with him when he first showed interest in you?
Okay, he gave me a date. He told me he wanted a second wife. And due to disappointments in men, I also needed a man who would be a man and protect me and take care of me. First, when you're a second wife, you should be a God-fearing person.
So for you, the fact that already alikuwa na bibi, there was some element of trust that he understands what marriage is.
Yeah.
He will give you what you need.
Yes, what I needed. Yeah. First, you should be God-fearing. Number 2, you should respect him and the first wife. Me, Serafina has never called me to insult me or anything. We have been good friends. When my kids go to her place, you can know you can differentiate my kids and hers. Same case to me, when they come to my place, yeah.
So at which point did you know, Seraphine, that now Caroline is in the picture?
kulikuwa wakati anaenda kazini, unajua kazi ya musician.
They travel a lot,
Yeah.
they work at night sometimes.
Yeah, lakini nilipoanza kugundua there's somebody else, tulienda mahali out. Lakini nikawa ama psychological counselor. So nilianza tu kwa sababu nikijua vile, for example nikimuuliza swali najua vile according to vile amekaa najua ananidanganya. The way he talk najua vile ananielekeza wapi. So after kuongea nikamwambia nimejua ukweli. Akaanza kucheka. Unaona? Thereafter kaniandikia message. At first, let me be realistic. It wasn't a good day for me. Though nilikuwa nampenda sana. Na nilikuwa naona, unajua most musician sana wanatarajia kama labda utaanguka ndio na yeye ainuke kwa hiyo mahali ulikuwa. So for me niliona hii kitu nikileta shida kwake itamwangusha kwa muziki. Na mi kutoka mwanzo singetarajia hata siku moja mtu achukue hiyo nafasi yake. So I was always fighting for him.
So unaona inge affect brand yake kidogo, ungeleta kisirani wewe.
Mi vita from vile nimerewa na wazazi, mi sina vita. Na najua hivyo. Mimi sipendi vita. Hata nikikasirika nakaa kivyangu kwanza.
That's your nature. You're very calm and understanding.
Yeah. Nakaa kivyangu najiuliza swali labda nilikosea mahali, wacha nijue ni wapi nilikosea. Lakini from me ndiona hakuna shida, baadaye pia aliniambia hakuna shida ulikuwa umefanya.
I'm curious Caroline, because you see Seraphine alikuja kugundua baadaye kwamba uko kwenye picture. Had you had that discussion that at which point will we now inform yule bibi that sasa mimi unataka kunichukua niwe bibi wa pili?
Hatukudiscuss. Mimi tu we dated, akaniambia I have a wife with 3 kids and I want a second wife. Me I was okay because me I wanted a man who is responsible. Yeah. Alafu sasa Mama Shiko has never called me kunitukana something. So that one nilikuanga na uoga. I was like, "Kai, mbona huyu mama anipigiangi simu? Kwani ananipangia?" Na anajua niko. Kwani what is she planning? I was like, "Kai." Lakini later ikakuwa tu poa. She never called me. John used to go to work on weekends. Saturdays when he's on at my place ananipea pesa, ananiambia hiyo ni shopping ya both homes. Utumie moiru yako. Kama kwa Mama Shiko ananitumia, naona it is from Seraphine M-Pesa. Unaona M-Pesa from Seraphine Wairimu, unajua mzee ako hiyo base.
And you know, I think mzee did a very good job because yani ya Mungu hatuelewi, but he's not here with us today. Lakini bado ile bond na ile feeling of family yenye alitengeneza kati yenu wawili, naona bado inastahimili. It's still thriving on. So probably I would want to understand from the both of you, just to really, because a lot of the times it is one man, several women. So it is the women who have to make the sacrifices. It is the women who have to compromise. It is the women who have to accommodate. So probably ni mara gani nyinyi wawili mlikutana for the first time? How did that meeting happen?
Ilikuwa ni wakati mmoja watoto walifuga shule. Na mostly watoto wangu wawili wako boarding, mmoja wake ako boarding.
So at that point you had already had a child with your late husband.
Yes.
But you had never met.
Yes.
We have never, lakini nilikuwa nasikia, lakini unajua especially in a marriage si vizuri kurukarukia maneno kama ati umesikia fulani. Jijurie mwenyewe. Kwa sababu most of them watakuja kukwambia hawako na nia nzuri.
So sasa hizo wewe uko pale unajua mzee mimi ni bibi, lakini unajua kuna mwingine na amezaa. Lakini hamjai kutana.
Yes.
Sasa ukasema sasa watoto ndio walifanya sasa ya mkakutana. So what happened?
Ilikuwa closing day na mzee alikuwa amezoea hivi watoto wakifuga shuleni yeye anaenda kuwachukua. Sasa alianzia wake. Akaita kwa my first born.
And how old was your child then?
He was in class 4.
Class 4. So that's a big boy.
Yeah.
That's
He's in class 7 now.
9 years, almost 10 years.
Alianzia wake, akachukua my first born, akachukua my second born, na watoto walikuwa wanajuana.
At that point. So nyinyi mnajua tu, unajua huyu yuko, yeye anajua wewe uko.
Lakini watoto walikuwa wanajuana.
Watoto walikuwa na interact.
Hata walikuwa wanapigania simu. My second born na first born wake walianzana kama hatujui.
So watoto wanajua kuna mama wawili.
Kwa sababu there was a time John alikuwa anachukua my daughter, anapenda unasikia Shiko. Alikuwa anachukua Shiko, anampeleka out, anaenda anachukua huyu mwingine.
So the children had, your children had met her
Before,
and your son had met Mama Shiko as well.
Yes.
So kila mtu kulikuwa na ile heshima, yule yuko, mimi niko. Sasa ile siku mkakuja mkakutana sasa.
Siku moja akaniambia, he called Mama Shiko when I was there, akanisema anataka kutupeleka lunch. Anataka kupeleka Mama Shiko lunch. Alafu na mimi akaniambia, sasa wewe ukikataa, sasa ujue huku hautaishi. He was tough.
So he gave you an ultimatum. Today is the
he
day.
was tough. Sasa nikaona mimi naishi ushago, acha tu niende nisikie hii story venye itaisha, kwa sababu huyu mama ninamuogopa. Sijui amenyamaza hivyo kwa nini, ama atanikujia siku moja na kiacid tao. So we went to Blue Post Hotel. I met Mama Shiko. She was looking good.
Mama Shiko hiyo siku ulijipodoa.
Hey, she was looking good. Alafu tulikuwa na watoto. Nikaenda tu kama nimemsalimia, nikamwambia hi Mama Shiko. She said hi Mama Matthew. Nothing else. Alafu tukakula, tukadrop Mama Shiko, tukaenda ushago.
And how did you feel after? Did you feel relieved?
Alafu sasa ndivyo tukaanza kwendanga holidays, kupelekanga watoto out, movies hivyo.
So nyinyi wenyewe sasa wawili mkaanza.
Tukaanza.
So hiyo urafiki ilianzaje? Because ile ya kwanza mzendo aliinsist.
She started calling, kuandikiana text hivyo, tukajipata tu tunaenda shopping pamoja. Nikienda shopping Sunday nampata ako Tuskys. Tuna bond. Tunaenda afternoon swimming. Weekend ikifika beba kienda job, tunaenda out zetu.
Sasa mkakuwa sasa partners.
Mpaka kaanza kuogopa.
And Mama Shiko, I'm sure kuna wanawake wengi sana wanatazama hiki kipindi.
Yeah.
And they're just looking at you and saying, by the way, you have so much grace. Because probably kuna wengi wako situation ile huko, na venye umesema wao wamepigana, wamepiga makelele, wamemwendea ule mwingine vita. And I like that Caroline ametuambia ni wewe ndio ulinitiate your relationship.
Yes.
Ile hata leo mkakaa hivi, kuketi hapa hivi wawili pamoja, anakumbuka ni wewe Mama Shiko ambayo ulimwelcome. So how are you able to do that?
Me, the first thing, napenda Mungu sana na napenda maombi. Na kama kuna kitu natakanga sana, kabla sijafanya kitu, naambianga Mungu kwanza niongoze. I cannot go alone. Na hiyo tena sitakangi kufanya kitu ambayo baadaye nitaregret. Unaona niko na watoto. Wananiangalia mimi vile wataona nitabehave, alafu baadaye ndio watafanya.
I think hiyo ni kitu muhimu, lazima watu wakumbuke kuna watoto. Usually when there's one man, several wives, kuna watoto. They are looking at you as examples.
Alafu tena John alikuwa mtu wa kupenda sana. Hakuwa anapenda hiyo mambo ya aibu. Na kwa vile nimjua kutoka pale chini sana, na sasa ameanza kwenda juu, nikasema hapana. Mimi siwezi kumteremsha tena na vile tulitoka bali. Kama ni mambo tu ya bibi. Hiyo si kitu itanifanya ati nikose kulala hata siku moja. Ile kitu inaweza fanya nikose usingizi, ni labda nisikie yuko huko, yuko pale, yuko hapa. Hapana. Huyu amempeleka nyumbani. Namuona ametulia. Ako na watoto wetu wanapendana sana. Ile kitu najua nataka wanaume wanisikize sana. Wanawake si wabaya. The problem is men. Because when you are marrying the second wife, unaenda unaambia the second wife ati nitakuoa, bibi yako sijui ako hivi. Siku ile ulimuoa, hauko najua hiyo weakness. Alafu tena ukijua hiyo weakness, kwa nini utagazie watu? Especially I'm warning women. Ukiona mwanamume anakuambia ati nakuoa, ati bibi yangu ako mchafu, ako hivi, he's not a man. Hata kana wewe. Another thing, I'm not advocating for polygamy. I'm a Catholic. Na ilinipata lakini niliona nifuate hiyo.
You made the best out of your situation.
Yes. Sasa wanaume pia wasione ati vile tumekaa kwa John ati na mtu naanze naye kutufuata vile tumefuata. Hapana. It's not a joke. Kama ulikuwa unatoa 10,000 ujue ni 20 utakuwa unapeana, uko nayo, uta afford. Kwa sababu kulea wanawake wawili na watoto
ni gharama kubwa.
Ni gharama kubwa sana. Hutaweza, unamleta hapo. Mwanamke si buzi. Ati siku moja utamfuga kabla umweke kwa hii majani ya kule majani. Anataka kukula vizuri, mavazi, kujipodoa, watoto wake waeke vizuri. If you cannot afford, just don't try.
Na pengine ningependa kujua, because I like when umewaambia watu kwamba kuona hivi the two of you've managed to make it work as a family.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of respect for your late husband, because bila yeye hamngekuwa hapa hivi leo.
Yeah.
Lakini pia ulikuwa unasema kuna ile challenges, because I'm sure pia in any relationship, hata ikiwa ni relationship ya mtu mmoja na bibi yake mmoja, wanakosanaga.
Yeah.
So amongst now your union, because kwenye mlikuwa watatu, ile how are you handling differences? Ile pengine let's say sema kama mama Shiko akikufanyia kitu na hujafurahi, yeah? So how are you handling it between the two of you?
Hapo inakuwaga na lazima ukuwe na wisdom ya hali ya juu sana, kwa sababu kuna kitu inaweza kutokezea. Ukiona utaisema na iharibu the whole family, unatafuta another solution. Si lazima ati niongee maneno ambayo itadhuru watu wengine wawili. Mimi ndio niliumia mmoja. Lakini ikitoa matamshi itaharibu wawili wazima na watoto. Kwa sababu kama nitaudhi huyu, we are not twins, we are not sisters. Hata my sister hatufanani. Reaction yangu labda si yako. Anaweza kufanya kitu ambayo itadhuru the whole family.
And you know what I'm hearing you say is understanding, because it's very apparent that to you, you're her family.
Yes.
Like you stop looking at her as my husband's second wife. She became your family.
Yeah.
So your level of responsibility, huyu mtu lazima nimchukulie ni kama ni wetu, ni wangu. Yeah? So if I want good for me, I understand that good for me means good for her.
Yeah.
And what about for you, Caroline? How would you handle any time that differences came up?
You know, I was the second wife.
And you're much younger.
Yes, we had a difference between, my age difference with John was 20 years.
Wow.
So he used to pamper me. So he never told me anything bad about Mama Shiko, and I never told him anything bad about, I never told Mama Shiko anything bad about Babe. Yeah.
So, and if you and Mama Shiko maybe had any differences, how would you approach your differences with
We've
Mama
never
Shiko?
had.
Oh wow, that's a
Blessing.
blessing.
In town,
Yes.
this is the Tigishagi.
Yes, stay in Ushago.
And I think also it's how the two of you establish the nature of your relationship. Ile, at even here kukuongelesha, naona uko na heshima nyingi sana kwa Mama Shiko. Yeah? I'm seeing she really has a lot of respect for you, and even you care a lot for her. It comes across very apparent. So let's talk about the children, because you're saying the children have an amazing relationship, and especially now because you're both grieving widows. So how are you both supporting each other and your children through this time?
One thing, you know, after burying the father of the children, my two children, they are in boarding school. One of her is in boarding school. Kwa hivyo hata tuna shughuli tumefanya. Lakini as we are talking now, she is the one who is going to pick all those children.
Well, there you've had it. So that was women's perspective when it comes to polygamy. Thank you for staying with us.
Um, 50-50, it all depends. If a man can sustain two women financially, emotionally, and physically, then I'm for it. There's no need for a man to have 2 wives or 3 wives and he cannot sustain them.
According to the Bible, it is not right. Yes.
Dini yenyewe inakubali wanawake wanne. Hiyo ni sunna ya Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sisi kusema. And real African men, they have to be polygamy. Sisi tulipata mababu zetu pia wako polygamy. So mimi hata nikiolewa bibi wa pili wa tatu, it's okay.
Okay, it depends with your financial situation and maybe your background. Maybe you know the Somalis, they accept polygamy. So in the African culture, let's say in the olden days, polygamy is allowed as long as you can be able to handle and cater for your family and provision. But nowadays with the financial constraints, I don't believe polygamy can go well with our society in terms of finance. But if you can manage, well and good.
When it comes to polygamy, I'm not for it, but if I had a partner who would want to be in a polygamous relationship, mimi nitawaondokea tu waendelee kujibamba, but I'm not up for it. It's not my cup of cake or my cup of tea. No.
Kwamba polygamy ni mzuri kwa sababu kwa Biblia lakini yakubaliwa, lakini kwangu mimi naona ni mzuri kwa sababu kama uko na wanawake wengi moja inaweza kukufa na unabaki na moja, lakini kama moja imekufa umebaki zero, lazima uende kuangalia mwingine.
Welcome back to the round table. Now remember that you can join the conversation via the hashtag Real Talk with Tamima. Let me know what your views, comments and questions are on today's topic. We're decoding polygamy, finding out what are the realities of living in this kind of family setup. That's why my next guest is very important, Dennis Owuor. Dennis is 26 years old. He grew up in a polygamous family setting, and get this, in total, his father has 24 children. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Thank you.
So you're one of 24.
Yes, I'm one of the 24 children.
Huyu mzee anaitwa nani? Lazima recognize, eh?
Yes. He's called the late and the great Eliud Owuor.
So Mr. Eliud Owuor the late,
Yes.
alikuwa na bibi wangapi?
Alikuwa na bibi watatu.
So 3 wives.
Yes.
And how many children by each wife?
The first wife, who is my mom, got 12 children.
12 children by wife number 1.
Yes. Then the second wife has 2 children. Then the third wife got 8 children.
So that's almost close to 22
children.
Wow.
Yes.
And having grown up in such a family setup, were you all living in one compound, different homes, or separately?
No, we were living in one compound with different houses. So like on our culture, you'll find the first wife, his house is in the center. Then the second wife, the house is on the right side if you are entering the homestead. Then on the farther end, we'll find the house of the last wife.
So what was it like growing up in such a homestead?
For me, I really enjoyed being there because you find everything there. Because you know, when you are children, you like going to other children for play, but there you find ready playmates for you, and you feel the company there.
So it's like a proper kindergarten by itself.
Yes.
At that stage, I can imagine.
So we find our playmates were there, we were secured by ourselves, because no one can come from outside and intrude us.
And I'm sure that with all the happy memories, there must have been some challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you experienced in the context of growing up in a polygamous family setup?
You know, the challenges me personally experienced is that there is a less concentration of the parents to the child, because you are so many. Let's take an example of my dad. He was a teacher, he was a primary teacher, so the income he was getting was not such that enough to upkeep the children.
So all 24 children, because
yes.
lazima mukule, muvae, muende shuleni,
yes.
healthcare,
yes,
and
yes.
it's all his responsibility.
So you might find sometimes you've run out of the book. So the teacher tells you, go and buy a book. So when you come and tell your dad, he will tell you, the money I had, I've used for somebody, so you have to wait. So that one becomes really a big challenge to us, because you have to wait. At the time you are waiting, the teacher at school won't understand that your father has told you to wait. Utakula kiboko.
But do you understand why your father told you to wait?
Yes, you understand, because even you know that you have very many. The father is not getting that big sum of money for upkeep of all of you.
And probably let me ask Apostle Habil, in your opinion, what are the challenges that come with being in a polygamous family setup?
In this kind of setup, one woman would think, even when they are wrong in their thinking, that you love the other more than the other. Both of them will. There is no woman who will be satisfied that you really love her as she should. But it's okay with me, because one thing is this: God loves us all, isn't it? He gives you a car. He has not given me a car. He still loves me. So love is not in terms of what you give. So as for me, with the income, the little income I have, I always tell them, you have to wait. Now, there is a challenge here, because one of them doesn't have children.
And which in this context would make it easier for you?
Yes, also, I should love her. I should show more love to her.
So that she doesn't feel like you love her less
Yes.
because she did not give you any children.
Yes, so when I deny this second one certain things or certain attentions or certain love-like manner, I explain to her, look here, you have 3 children, okay? She doesn't have. I even explain this to my children. When my children would think I don't love their mother or them as I love this one.
And let me find out from you, Dennis, because you're a young man right now. Umeoa?
Yes.
Una bibi moja.
For the time being, I'm still having one.
Also, you say for the time being.
For the time being.
So that means that you're sure you want to be in a polygamous family setup as well.
You know, if I can start from the history of our family, my grandfather had 14 wives.
Your grandfather had 14 wives.
Yes, he had 14 wives.
How many children?
The children were so many. I don't even know the number.
Okay.
I don't even know the number. There are so many.
Mm-hmm.
And when
your father just had 3?
My father had 3.
I feel like I should add a thank God after hearing 14 wives.
Then it's something which I can say it's something that's genetical.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's genetically something which is being inherited.
So, looking at the history of polygamy in your family, from your grandpa, 14 wives, dad, 3 wives, so wewe unataka wangapi?
You know, it is very clear that a man can never get satisfied with one wife. So, at my age, I can't still decide on how many.
I think disclaimer there, and for my viewers, they would lynch me if I don't put a disclaimer there, because there are men who have one wife and they're happy. So it's not that it's impossible. I think it's choice.
But I want to tell you this. You know, if there is food on the table and you've been given a cup of tea and there is plenty of food, you will take it because that is what you've been given, but you still admire more. Mm-hmm. Of which, if you've been given a chance, you can get as many as you can.
So for you, what would be your number? What are you aiming towards?
I would like to resemble my granddad.
You want to have 14 wives. Is this a conversation you've had with your wife?
Yeah. This is a conversation because she knows that our family background, we are people coming from a polygamy family. And sometimes if we could have jokes, she always tells me that, I know as per now you are still cheating me, that you will only have one wife, but I know that you will add another wife.
So amekubali.
Somehow.
And you both agree that it is easier when the first wife accepts and, you know, buys into into having more wives coming on board. It makes life easier.
You know, that one is just a talk, but I can assure you that no wife accepts a fellow wife.
Do you agree as well, no wife?
Yes, unless they are prepared to accept. Because you will find in the Bible there are some women like Sarah who wished to have another one. The only problem is that when this new one came, you know, kind of despised Sarah because Sarah did not have any children. So there are problems that will come in with another one coming in. But it's very possible, and I've also read books, and I've also listened to YouTube, that there are some women who are looking for sister co-wives. They are looking for.
Okay, so right now it's time for a very quick break. Remember, don't go too far. You can always let me know what your views, comments, questions are on today's topic via the hashtag #RealTalkWithTamima. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the roundtable. Now, our conversation on decoding polygamy continues. Joining me right now is our resident counselor, Dr. I was not call you doctor. You know, right now you're a doctor of love, huh?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mr. Diane Masinde, our doctor of love on Real Talk. So, Diane, we're discussing polygamy.
Yes.
And I think I visited various homes, had different conversations with women, but interestingly, on the table, we just have men.
Exactly.
So I'm feeling right now, my viewers are like, of course, the men, Tamima, they'll say they co-sign, they support, they endorse polygamy.
Exactly.
But ultimately, what we are saying is that it's a choice.
It's a choice.
And by law in Kenya, polygamy is legal. It is recognized.
Yes.
So in the context of now, being in a polygamous family setup.
Yeah.
We know that for Apostle Habil, he's been able to actually navigate it and do it successfully.
Yeah.
And in the context of Dennis's upbringing, you know, having 24 kids, that's a lot. Having a relationship where it's just one man, one woman has its own challenges.
Yeah, yeah.
So when we are navigating a relationship where you have one man and several women, and as I hear, the number goes as high as 14
Exactly.
for some people. So
Even
higher.
higher.
Is there like a polygamous, polygamy anonymous?
Kind of thing,
So sweet. When you are able, having many women is just wonderful.
Okay.
But when you are not able, breaks.
Okay, so let me, and maybe Dan, what I just want you perhaps to put into perspective for us, as an individual, before you make this choice that I'm going to be in a polygamous relationship, what do you have to consider?
Okay. First of all, before I even start any counseling session, one of the things that I ask people, are you a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, a Sikh, an African traditionalist? Why? Because your faith informs a lot of what it is that you do. And when it comes now to the legal structure of Kenya, a Christian marriage is recognized as a monogamous marriage. So I just wanted to put that into perspective. Now, when it comes to polygamy, as actually we've seen, you know, we have men in the building over here, men in the show today, and usually for polygamy is usually about the man. It's about the man, and rarely do we get to listen to the voices of the women. And as you can see, also polygamy is actually part of culture. And what's culture? Culture is something that has been handed down over and over and over time. As you can see, he actually said it was grandfather to father, grandfather to father to him. So it's something handed over to down generation. And a lot of the culture that actually is made doesn't take into consideration the voice of the woman. Look at it, for example, something like FGM. We did away with FGM because we were seeing that it doesn't have any value. Because culture is made by people. We can always change culture. If you see it doesn't suit you, you can actually change it. Now let's come to, for example, the situation of his. The wife felt like, you know what, because I don't have a child, I will humble myself to accept another wife. Perhaps if she had a child, that will never have happened.
But as well, it was a choice.
Perhaps it was a choice. Perhaps. And now you see that's usually, even for the instances where you're actually referring to even place of the Bible about Sarah, you know, she was also the same situation. I don't have a child, so she was like, you can actually go ahead and get another woman. So usually it is because of circumstances that leads to some people to being polygamous. And now once you become polygamous, now once you as a woman, you choose a particular kind of a thing, as we've actually had, sometimes there's competition. There's competition between the children and even competition between the wives. Usually even more when the man dies. When the man dies, because it's a man who keeps things together. Once a man dies,
he's the glue.
He's the glue. He's the glue. Why? Because culturally, a lot of things are centered around the man. But you see, even in today's culture, where even the women have become more empowered, now they're having their own money. Now, once a woman has money, it is very difficult for her to say, I can be okay with a polygamous marriage. Why? Because what she wants is not a man to take care of her. What she wants is companionship. I have my own money. I just want a man who can actually have companionship.
So there's no economic motivation.
Yes, because a lot of the times polygamous, yes, sometimes circumstances, like for example, I can't have a child. Sometimes it is a man, you know, bumping up his chest. I come from a culture of polygamy, so I choose this particular thing. If you're going to stay with me, you have to follow suit. So the woman just has either to ship out or to accept. And then sometimes there's things about sex, money, and power. Let me explain. Sex in the sense that sometimes you, usually as a man, you want to have multiple sexual experiences. So you have one person, another one. So you legitimize it by actually having it as a marriage. Then the element of money. As I said, sometimes because some men feel like because I have money, now I can take in more wives. Or sometimes a woman who feels I don't have money, but I can accept being a second or a third wife because I can be taken care of. And sometimes also a power play, whereby because of society tends to really celebrate men who have more women. We tend to like, wow.
Sort of like it's an ego boost.
It's an ego boost. So socially you get that power. And when you look at even culturally, when you look back, a lot of people were getting married for either political or power play. I want to rule this kind of tribe, or I want to rule this kind of setup, so I want to marry one from their own. So it gives you a power boost. And all this we are seeing, it's usually about the man. It's the man who's actually making the decision. But I must say that when it comes to something as love is, I want to do to you what I want you to do to me.
So in the context of love, because, you know, this will usually come up a lot, especially in the monogamous kind of relationship setup. Can somebody love more than one person.
Yes.
I think polygamy proves that, yes, indeed,
Yes,
somebody
yes.
can love more than one person.
Yes.
But here, with polygamy, what we are saying, it is polygamy because of choice.
Yes.
Whereby all parties on the table have actually co-signed and agreed
Yes.
that I recognize this is my husband, but he's also someone else's husband.
Yes, yes.
So for people who might consider this as a lifestyle, and I kind of feel like that's where now the honesty
Yes.
has to start
Yes,
from.
yes, yes.
That they have to make the choice. It is not something that you fall into.
Yes, yes.
Because it has certain, complications when it comes to navigating. And for instance, ile attention. Usually you'll find people are in a relationship, a man and a woman, and the woman is complaining, you're not giving me enough attention. So
even
you can
in a
imagine,
monogamous marriage, people are complaining about attention.
Yes,
How
so
much more
now
in a
there's
polygamous?
two of
Yes,
us.
yes, or three.
You have to struggle with not giving 2 women or 3 women
Yes.
enough attention.
Yes, exactly.
So what would you advise anyone, especially the guys? Because I kind of feel like there's a guy watching this, and to them, Habil is a hero, you know? Dennis wants
yes.
to take up after Habil. He's
Yes.
also a hero in his own,
Yes.
in those people's minds. But the reality is that it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And to answer that question, usually ask men, would you be okay with if your wife took a second or a third husband?
Can we find out from
Would
the
you
men
be
on this
okay?
table?
Yes.
Would you be okay, Habil?
You before I say okay or not okay, I want you to listen to this. Okay? A woman was created for the man. The man was not created for the woman.
So you're saying it is unnatural for the woman to have
Yes.
more than one husband.
Yes.
But it is okay because
Yes.
naturally, the way things were designed, the man can have more than one.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
What I can say is that it is naturally believed that it is the man who marries.
Good.
Not the woman to marry.
Good.
So it's only man for many wives, but not woman for many husbands.
What he's saying is that we don't marry each other.
Yes.
The one who marries is the man.
The man.
But it's not like that in English. English wame to spoil. Lakini the reality, even in the Bible, ni mwanaume anaoa. Mwanamuke ameolewa. Kwa hivyo kama ameolewa, hawezi kuwa na wawili ama watatu kwa sababu ameolewa. Yule ambaye amemuoa anaweza ongeza mwingine. Kama vile ukiajiri utaajiri mfanyikazi mwingine, si ndio?
Yes.
Back to the belief system. You see, that's what I usually like to start over there, because our belief system informs a lot of what it is that we do. For example, he mentioned about the Christian setup, and when it comes even to Christianity, you look at it when it talks about the creation. You're being told that the husband is supposed to love the wife just as Christ loves the one church. That's now according to that. Now, from the other element of now culturally, it is presumed that the man should be like this. You see, that's a lot of the patriarchal talk that actually is going on, whereby now sometimes, especially when you start now seeing the conflict between men and women, because now there are women who once they're told, I want you to be the first wife, I'm going to take a second one. The wife tells, no, I'm out. Why? Because she did not sign to that. What I signed for was love, to be treated the way I treat you. I'm going to be faithful to you, so be faithful to me. I'm going to have you as my only one, so you be my only one. And you see, that's now love. The basis of love is this: do to your spouse what you want your spouse to do to you. If you don't want your spouse to do something, then you don't go ahead to do it. But as you see, there are different forms of arrangement, and it is a choice. If you choose the arrangement of polygamy, that is your choice. But also bear in mind the feelings of the other people that you're putting through that. So now you talk, and then you come to an agreement. But in that agreement, there are also many dynamics. There are children involved. There are people involved. And let's also not just follow culture or even beliefs blindly. Choose for you what is good for your family. So have a vision for your family.
Because I know it sounds almost like a urban legend. A guy has 14 wives. He has 40 children. People like talking about that. But at the same time, and I like how Dennis put it, the reality is that it's only one dad who has to split his attention across 24 kids.
Exactly.
You can imagine already when you have one child, with the pressures of today's lives, people are struggling. So what is it like for that child who understands that normal time with my father is probably 5 minutes, because there are 10 of us who are competing for that attention and affection.
And I need to say this to men especially. You see, fatherhood is not just about provision. Fatherhood is time. Fatherhood is mentorship. And you cannot do that at a distance. And this is not something you can delegate or do something like that. So those are the dynamics that now come into play, where you have to play vulnerable and intimate time with the children and also with the wife. Of course, there are different arrangements. For example, like his case, where one doesn't have the first wife didn't have a
Which
child.
I still believe
Yes.
makes his arrangement easier.
It makes it easier because now you see, the first wife now perhaps values the second wife because
Yes.
you brought in something that I couldn't bring.
Absolutely.
But in the context where I can bring children, I can bring money, I can bring great activity in the bedroom, why do you need another woman? And also in those contexts where now, especially the children of the first wife, they start feeling, why did dad feel he had to go get another woman? What was it that mom didn't have that dad had to go get another woman? And as actually you've seen, sometimes what we do in our marriages, they follow our children. Because now our children growing up in that setting, a lot of people have actually also grown up in polygamous marriages and they've chosen, no, what I went through, I don't want my children to go through.
That is the other side of the
that
coin.
is the other side. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to put my wife through what I saw maybe my mother, who was the second wife or the third wife or the first wife, go through. I want to have just one wife and I want to love her and I want to love the children that, and for example, like even if you don't have children, as you've seen, it weighs heavy on the woman. When there's no child, usually it's the woman who's actually getting blamed. And that's why there's this pressure on the woman. But there are actually marriages that even if you can't have a child, you choose, you know what, we're still going to do this. We can adopt, we can still love each other, we can still decide, instead of changing that, we change that into a vision where you have a children's home. It's what it is that you choose as a couple. But just be clear with yourself and also be clear with the person that you're in this union with.
Right. Now, remember, on this table, we bring you topics that we believe are topics that should be talked about, because the reality is that there are so many families who are living in the polygamous setup. And I really hope that today we've actually just sort of like drawn back the curtain and helped you understand what the realities of that type of life is. But ultimately, it comes down to choice. The man must make the choice. The women must make the choice. And ultimately, at the end of the day, with great choices come great responsibility. You have to ensure that economically, si hapa kuonekana ati uko na ego. And as always, as this is a table of transformation, guys, we are leaving it on the table. We are leaving it up to you. Make your decision. Make it wisely. Well, that's it from me, Tamima. Thank you so much for staying with us. Until next time, this has been The Round Table. I'll see you next time.
Special thanks to E+ for medic and ambulance services.